12 forgotten herbs for memory and mental clarity. After 50, recipes of the world's longest living people. Picture this. It's 1973, a small village in the mountains of Okinawa, Japan. A woman named Ushi is 96 years old. She wakes before sunrise without an alarm. She tends her garden for 2 hours. She cooks breakfast from scratch. She remembers the name of every person in her village, every birthday, every story her grandmother told her when she was a child. She is not exceptional in Okinawa. In this village, there are 11 people over the age of 90. All of them are sharp. All of them are present. None of them are on medication for memory loss. Researchers who came to study them asked the same question every time. What is your secret? The answers were never supplements from a pharmacy. They were never fish oil capsules in a bottle with a label. They were plants. Specific plants. Plants that grew in the garden, that were steeped in water before breakfast, that were added to food, that were pressed into oils and rubbed into the scalp. Plants that the modern world stopped talking about the moment there was money to be made from a prescription alternative. Now come back to the present. Right now, in a pharmacy somewhere near you, there is an entire shelf dedicated to fish oil capsules. Some of them cost $40, $50, $60 a bottle. The marketing behind them is enormous. The science behind them, for memory specifically, is far more modest than the packaging suggests. A 2022 Cochrane review, the gold standard of medical evidence, analyzed 77 randomized controlled trials on omega-3 fatty acid supplementation and cognitive function. The conclusion? There is little to no evidence that omega-3 supplementation improves memory or prevents cognitive decline in healthy older adults. 77 trials. Little to no evidence. And yet the fish oil industry generates over $2 billion a year in the United States alone. Meanwhile, 12 plants with centuries of documented use, multiple clinical trials, and mechanistic evidence that explains exactly how they protect and repair brain tissue are sitting in the herbal medicine section, mostly ignored, mostly misunderstood, mostly forgotten. Today I'm going to show you all 12 of them. I'm going to show you the specific zones of the brain each one targets. I'm going to show you the clinical evidence. I'm going to show you exactly how to use them. And I'm going to show you why the people who live longest with the sharpest minds have been using these plants for generations, while the modern world was busy patenting synthetic copies. Stay with me until number 10, because number 10 on this list was used by Ayurvedic physicians over 3,000 years ago specifically for what they called medhya, the enhancement of intellect. And a 2023 meta-analysis just confirmed it produces measurable improvements in memory, learning speed, and processing in adults over 50, with effects that compound over time. And number 12, the one we finish with, has a clinical trial behind it that every person over 50 in this country should know about, but almost nobody does. Before we go any further, if nobody in your life has ever talked to you about any of this, and you think other people deserve to know it too, hit that subscribe button right now and tap the bell icon so you never miss a video. And if you believe that knowledge like this should reach more people, not just the ones who can afford a specialist, hit like right now. Every like tells the algorithm that this video matters. It costs you nothing. It helps someone else find this. Now, let's go to number 1. But first, let's spend 60 seconds on what actually happens to the brain after 50, because understanding this changes everything about why these plants work. Your brain has roughly 86 billion neurons. Those neurons communicate through synapses, connection points where chemical messengers called neurotransmitters jump from one cell to another. After 50, several things begin to happen simultaneously. First, acetylcholine production declines. Acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter most directly associated with memory formation and learning. When it drops, you start forgetting names. You walk into a room and forget why. You lose words mid-sentence. Second, BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, decreases. BDNF is essentially fertilizer for neurons. It promotes the growth of new connections and protects existing ones. Without adequate BDNF, the brain begins to atrophy structurally. The hippocampus, the memory center, literally shrinks. Third, neuroinflammation increases. Chronic low-grade inflammation in brain tissue degrades neurotransmitter production, impairs synaptic function, and accelerates the cellular aging processes that lead to cognitive decline. Fourth, cortisol, the stress hormone, rises. Chronically elevated cortisol directly damages hippocampal neurons. It shrinks the hippocampus. It impairs memory consolidation during
For you,
sleep.
only 50.
It creates a feedback
I can give you a
loop
better price
where
here.
stress causes forgetting, and forgetting causes stress. Every plant on this list targets one or more of these four mechanisms. Some target all four simultaneously. This is not coincidence. These are plants that human beings have used for cognitive enhancement long enough that we selected for the ones that worked on the actual biological processes involved. Now let's meet them. Number 1. Bacopa monnieri, the memory root that Ayurvedic physicians called the herb of grace. In ancient India, there was a practice among the Brahmin teachers of the Vedic tradition. Before a student began the years of memorization required to internalize the sacred texts, thousands of verses, entire philosophical systems, complex ritual sequences, the teacher would prepare a specific herb. The herb was Bacopa monnieri, called Brahmi in Sanskrit, named after Brahma, the god of creation and knowledge. The name alone tells you how seriously the ancient world took this plant's effects on the mind. For over 3,000 years, Bacopa was used specifically, deliberately, and consistently for one purpose: enhancing the brain's ability to acquire, retain, and recall information. This was not vague folklore. This was systematic medical practice. The Charaka Samhita, one of the foundational texts of Ayurvedic medicine, dating to approximately 600 BCE, describes Bacopa as a Medhya Rasayana, a category of plants specifically classified for their ability to improve intellect and memory. Modern neuroscience has now identified exactly why it works, and the mechanism is more sophisticated than anyone in the ancient world could have known. Bacopa contains compounds called bacicides, specifically bacicide A and bacicide B. These compounds do three things simultaneously that are directly relevant to the brain changes that happen after 50. First, bacicides enhance the activity of the enzyme that synthesizes acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter most critical for memory formation. They don't just provide a substrate for acetylcholine. They upregulate the enzyme that makes it. This is the same target that Alzheimer's drugs like donepezil act on, except Bacopa works through a different, gentler, and more sustainable mechanism. Second, bacicides reduce lipid peroxidation in the brain. Lipid peroxidation is a form of oxidative damage that degrades the fatty membranes of neurons, the very structures that form synaptic connections. As this damage accumulates, synaptic communication becomes less efficient. Bacopa directly scavenges the free radicals responsible for this damage, protecting the structural integrity of brain tissue. Third, bacosides modulate the activity of serotonin receptors in ways that appear to support the hippocampal function involved in long-term memory consolidation. The clinical evidence for Bacopa in adults over 50 is among the strongest of any plant on this list. A 2001 randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in Psychopharmacology, a major peer-reviewed journal, found that Bacopa supplementation significantly improved speed of visual information processing, learning rate, and memory consolidation in healthy adults. The effects were dose-dependent and appeared most strongly at the 12-week mark.
The self is the breath within the breath.
A 2008 randomized controlled trial in the
Seek
Journal
the
of
silence
Alternative
that
and
underlies
Complementary
all
Medicine
sound.
found that Bacopa significantly improved word recall memory scores in older adults compared to placebo. A 2016 meta-analysis in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology reviewed 9 randomized controlled trials and concluded that Bacopa monnieri improved cognition, particularly speed of attention and memory in older populations, with the effects strengthening with longer use. A 2023 meta-analysis, the most comprehensive to date, confirmed consistent improvements in memory, learning speed, and information processing across multiple trials, with a particularly strong effect in adults over 50. The effects compound with time. This is not a plant that works in a day. The trials consistently show that week 4 is better than week 2, week 8 is better than week 4, and week 12 is substantially better than where you started. You are not covering a deficit. You are rebuilding capacity.
How to use it.
Look for a Bacopa monnieri extract standardized to 20% bacosides or higher. The dose used in most clinical trials is 300 to 450 milligrams of standardized extract daily. Take it with food. Bacosides are fat-soluble and absorption improves with a fat source. Take it consistently, daily, without gaps, because the compound effect is cumulative. Note: some people experience mild gastrointestinal discomfort when starting Bacopa. If this happens, take it with a full meal and reduce to a lower dose for the first 2 weeks before building up. The ancient teachers were preparing their students' minds before filling them with knowledge. They understood something that modern neuroscience is only now confirming. The capacity to learn and remember is not fixed. It is biological. It can be cultivated. And Bacopa is one of the most powerful tools for that cultivation that the plant kingdom has ever produced. Number 2. Ginkgo biloba, the living fossil that feeds the brain. 270 million years ago, before the dinosaurs, before the first mammals, before the continents separated into their current positions, there were ginkgo trees. The ginkgo biloba is the oldest species of tree on Earth. It has survived 5 mass extinction events. It was growing in China before the Himalayas were formed. Fossilized ginkgo leaves are found in rocks dating to the Permian period. When the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima in 1945, 6 ginkgo trees within the blast radius survived. Every other living thing within a 1-kilometer radius was destroyed. Those 6 trees are still alive today. This is not a coincidence. Ginkgo contains one of the most sophisticated antioxidant and circulatory support chemical profiles in the plant kingdom. The mechanisms that allowed it to survive 270 million years of planetary change are the same mechanisms that protect your brain tissue. For the purposes of cognitive function after 50, ginkgo works through 2 primary mechanisms that are both directly relevant to the brain changes we described earlier. First, and this is the one that makes ginkgo unique among all the plants on this list, it is a powerful cerebrovascular dilator. It improves blood flow to the brain. This sounds simple. It is actually profound. The brain is 2% of your body weight and consumes 20% of your oxygen.
Are showing
It is the
unprecedented
most
activity.
metabolically
This could be the
demanding
breakthrough
organ
we
in
needed.
the body. Every neuron, every synapse, every moment of thought and memory is powered by the blood that reaches it. As we age, cerebral circulation decreases. Small blood vessels narrow. Blood viscosity increases. The brain begins receiving less fuel, less oxygen, less glucose, fewer nutrients. This is one of the primary drivers of age-related cognitive decline. Ginkgo contains compounds called ginkgolides and bilobolide that inhibit platelet activating factor, a compound that causes blood to thicken and vessels to constrict. The result is measurably improved blood flow to brain tissue, confirmed by multiple imaging studies. Second, ginkgo is a potent antioxidant that specifically protects neuronal membranes from oxidative damage, the same lipid peroxidation mechanism that bacopa also addresses, but through a different chemical pathway. Together, they form a synergistic pair that protects the structural integrity of neurons from multiple angles simultaneously. The clinical evidence for ginkgo in older adults is extensive and consistent. A landmark study published in JAMA in 1997, one of the most prestigious medical journals in the world, found that ginkgo biloba extract significantly slowed cognitive decline in patients with Alzheimer's disease and vascular dementia compared to placebo. A 2002 study in human psychopharmacology found that a single dose of ginkgo extract improved memory and attention in healthy volunteers. A 2010 Cochrane review of 36 trials involving over 4,000 participants concluded that ginkgo biloba appeared to be safe and provided consistent, if modest, benefits for cognitive function and activities of daily living. More recent research has focused on prevention rather than treatment. A 2018 study published in Aging found that long-term ginkgo supplementation was associated with a significantly reduced risk of developing dementia in older adults over a 5-year follow-up period. How to use it. Look for a standardized ginkgo biloba extract. The most commonly studied preparation is EGB 761, standardized to 24% flavone glycosides and 6% terpene lactones. The dose used in clinical trials for cognitive function is typically 120 to 240 milligrams daily, divided into 2 doses. Take it with food. Do not use ginkgo if you are on blood-thinning medication, warfarin, aspirin, or similar without consulting your doctor, as the platelet-inhibiting properties can compound anticoagulant effects. 270 million years of survival, a chemical profile sophisticated enough to protect brain tissue from the same forces that have destroyed entire species, and a clinical evidence base that spans decades and thousands of patients. The plant that outlived the dinosaurs is still growing, and your brain would thank you for remembering it exists. Number 3. Lion's mane mushroom, the fungus that grows new brain cells. In a forest in Japan, growing from the side of a decaying oak tree, there is a white, shaggy fungus that looks remarkably like the mane of a lion. Hericium erinaceus, lion's mane mushroom, used in traditional Chinese and Japanese medicine for centuries. Called yamabushitake in Japan, the mushroom of the mountain monks, because Buddhist monks consumed it as part of their practice of sustained meditation and mental clarity. What those monks couldn't have known is that lion's mane contains 2 unique classes of compounds, hericinones and erinacines, that do something no pharmaceutical drug has ever been designed to do safely and consistently in humans. They cross the blood-brain barrier and stimulate the production of nerve growth factor, NGF. NGF is a protein that promotes the growth, maintenance, and survival of neurons. It supports the formation of new synaptic connections. It protects existing neurons from degeneration. And critically, it appears to support the repair and regeneration of myelin, the protective sheath around nerve fibers that allows electrical signals to travel efficiently through the brain. The loss of myelin integrity is associated with multiple forms of cognitive decline and neurological disease. The idea that a food you can eat might stimulate the brain's own repair mechanisms, its capacity for neurogenesis and neuroprotection, is one of the most exciting frontiers in neuroscience. The clinical evidence is still accumulating, but what exists is compelling. A landmark 2009 randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in Phytotherapy Research, the same journal that has published multiple Bacopa trials, studied 50 to 80-year-old men and women with mild cognitive impairment over 16 weeks. The group taking lion's mane extract showed significantly higher cognitive function scores than the placebo group at weeks 8, 12, and 16. Critically, when they stopped taking the supplement, the scores declined back toward baseline over the following 4 weeks. The effect was real, present, and dependent on continued use. A 2020 study in the Journal of Medicinal Food found that lion's mane supplementation significantly improved scores on multiple cognitive tests in older adults with subjective cognitive decline. A 2023 randomized controlled trial published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found measurable improvements in working memory performance in healthy adults taking lion's mane extract over 12 weeks, alongside measurable increases in BDNF, the brain growth factor we discussed in the introduction. BDNF, the fertilizer for neurons. Lion's mane raises it. This is the mechanism that links the ancient monastic practice of consuming this fungus to the neuroscience of why it actually works. How to use it. Look for a dual extract lion's mane supplement, hot water extracted for polysaccharides, and alcohol extracted for hericenones and erinacines. Both fractions are needed for the full effect. A standard dose is 500 to 1,000 milligrams of dual extract daily. Some practitioners recommend up to 3 grams for more significant cognitive support. Lion's mane can also be consumed as a food. It is edible, with a seafood-like flavor when cooked. Regular culinary consumption is a valid route to the same compounds, though lower doses than in supplemental form. The mountain monks who ate this fungus before meditation were not being superstitious. They were working with a biological reality that modern science is only beginning to map. Number 4. Ashwagandha, the root that lowers the hormone that kills memory. There is a hormone that, when chronically elevated, literally destroys memory. It physically shrinks the hippocampus, the part of your brain most responsible for forming new memories and retrieving old ones. It impairs the consolidation of memory during sleep. It suppresses the production of BDNF. It promotes neuroinflammation. And it creates a vicious cycle. The more of it your body produces, the harder it is to remember things, which causes anxiety and stress, which produces more of it. The hormone is cortisol, and after 50, for most people in the modern world, it is chronically elevated. Work pressure, financial pressure, health anxiety, poor sleep, social disconnection. The modern life that people in their 50s are navigating is a near-perfect cortisol production machine. And the cognitive consequences, the brain fog, the word-finding difficulties, the sense that your mind isn't as sharp as it used to be, are often not primarily about neurodegeneration. They are about cortisol. They are about a stress system that never turns off, destroying the biological infrastructure of memory. Ashwagandha, Withania somnifera, called the Indian ginseng, is the most extensively studied adaptogen in the world, and its primary documented action is this: it measurably reduces cortisol, not through sedation, not by blunting your stress response entirely, but by modulating the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal system that regulates cortisol production, and bringing chronically elevated levels back toward a healthy baseline. The active compounds are called withanolides. They appear to regulate the glucocorticoid receptor system and reduce the output of the adrenal glands in response to chronic stress, while leaving the acute stress response intact. You can still respond to a genuine emergency. Your baseline anxiety simply drops. The effects on memory and cognition specifically, not just on stress, are now well documented. A 2017 randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in the Journal of Dietary Supplements found that KSM-66 ashwagandha extract, the most studied preparation, significantly improved both immediate and general memory in adults with mild cognitive impairment over 8 weeks. A 2020 randomized controlled trial published in Medicine found that ashwagandha significantly improved cognitive flexibility, reaction time, and sustained attention in healthy adults, alongside measurable reductions in cortisol. A 2021 meta-analysis in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology reviewed multiple trials and confirmed consistent improvements in memory, executive function, and processing speed in adults taking ashwagandha, with the effect size correlating with the degree of cortisol reduction. The mechanism is clear. Lower cortisol protects the hippocampus. A protected hippocampus forms and retrieves memories more efficiently. Ashwagandha lowers cortisol. Therefore, ashwagandha improves memory. This is not a complicated chain of reasoning. It is a documented biological sequence. How to use it? Look for KSM-66 or sensoril ashwagandha extract. Both are standardized preparations with the strongest clinical evidence. The dose for cognitive and stress effects is 300 to 600 milligrams of root extract daily. KSM-66 at 600 milligrams daily has been used in the majority of the most rigorous trials. Take it in the evening for the best cortisol modulation effects. Cortisol is naturally highest in the morning and lowest at night, and evening ashwagandha supports the natural down-regulation that should occur as the day ends. Ashwagandha is not going to give you a caffeine-like jolt of clarity. What it gives you is something more valuable: the gradual removal of the biochemical interference that has been clouding your mind. Most people report noticing the difference: the quieter mental baseline, the clearer recall, the feeling that the fog is lifting at about the 3 to 4 week mark. After thousands of years of use and dozens of clinical trials, the ancient Indian physicians who named this plant, Withania somnifera, means sleep-inducing withania, a reference to its calming properties, understood its nature more precisely than the modern world gives them credit
The
for.
adrenal glands, located right above
Number
the kidneys,
5.
produce cortisol.
Gotu kola,
This cortisol
the
then
herb
signals back
that
to the
heals the
hypothalamus.
brain's wiring. In the wetlands and forest margins of India, Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia, there is a small, unremarkable-looking plant with rounded leaves and a creeping growth habit. It doesn't draw attention to itself. It doesn't have dramatic flowers or an imposing presence. But in the traditional medicine systems of every culture that has inhabited its range, Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, traditional Indonesian jamu, it has been regarded as one of the most important plants for the health of the nervous system that the plant world offers. Centella asiatica, Gotu kola. Called Mandukaparni in Sanskrit, the leaf shaped like a frog's foot. Known in Sri Lanka as the herb of elephants, based on the traditional observation that elephants, Animals renowned for their extraordinary memories seek it out and eat it preferentially. The active compounds are called triterpenoids, specifically asiaticoside, medecasoside, and their aglycones asiatic acid and medecasic acid. These compounds have now been studied extensively, and their effects on brain tissue are specific, documented, and mechanistically understood. Gotu Kola promotes the synthesis of collagen in blood vessel walls, including the microscopic capillaries that feed brain tissue. As we age, these tiny vessels become fragile and their walls thin. The result is microbleeds, reduced nutrient delivery to neurons, and impaired waste clearance from brain tissue. Gotu Kola literally repairs the infrastructure of cerebral microcirculation. Beyond vascular effects, the triterpenoids in Gotu Kola stimulate the elongation of dendrites, the branching extensions of neurons through which they form connections with other neurons. More dendritic branching means more connections. More connections means more capacity for storing and retrieving information. Gotu Kola appears to physically increase the connectivity of the brain. A 2016 randomized controlled trial published in Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine found that Gotu Kola supplementation significantly improved memory and cognitive function in healthy older adults over 2 months. A 2012 study in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease found that asiatic acid, the primary active compound in Gotu Kola, significantly reduced beta-amyloid-induced neurotoxicity in neuronal cell cultures, suggesting a protective role against the processes associated with Alzheimer's disease. Research published in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences confirmed that Gotu Kola triterpenoids stimulate dendritic arborization, the branching of neuronal connections, in a dose-dependent manner. How to use it? Gotu Kola is available as a standardized extract, as dried herb for tea, and in some regions as a fresh vegetable. For cognitive support, look for an extract standardized to total triterpenoids. Typical dose is 400 to 600 milligrams of standardized extract daily, or 1 to 2 grams of dried herb in tea form. Some people combine Gotu Kola with Bacopa as a paired preparation for synergistic cognitive support, a combination that has precedent in Ayurvedic practice, where both plants are classified as Medhya Rasayana herbs and have traditionally been used together. The elephants have been eating it for millennia. The monks have been drinking it as tea for thousands of years. And modern neuroscience has now confirmed, compound by compound, mechanism by mechanism, exactly why it works. Number 6. Rosemary, the herb that makes you remember you have the answer. In ancient Greece, students studying for examinations wore garlands of rosemary in their hair. This was not decorative. It was functional. They had observed, empirically, that being near rosemary improved their recall. In Elizabethan England, rosemary was called the herb of remembrance. Shakespeare references this in Hamlet when Ophelia says, "There's rosemary, that's for remembrance." In traditional apothecary gardens across Europe for 1,000 years, rosemary was classified specifically as a brain herb, a plant grown and used for its effects on memory and mental clarity. These observations stretched across cultures that never communicated, persisted across millennia, and were specific enough to be reliably documented in every herbal tradition that encountered the plant. We now know why. Rosemary contains a compound called rosmarinic acid and another called 1,8-cineol, a terpenoid that, when inhaled or absorbed through the skin or digestive tract, inhibits the breakdown of acetylcholine by blocking an enzyme called acetylcholinesterase. This is the exact same mechanism as Alzheimer's drugs like donepezil. They are acetylcholinesterase inhibitors. They work by preventing the enzyme that breaks down acetylcholine from doing its job, thus increasing acetylcholine availability in synapses. Rosemary does this naturally, with compounds present in both the essential oil and the whole plant. A landmark study by Dr. Mark Moss at Northumbria University found that exposure to rosemary essential oil aroma significantly improved both speed and accuracy of mental arithmetic and quality of memory in healthy adults. The effect was measurable, statistically significant, and correlated with blood serum levels of 1,8-cineol, confirming that the compound was actually being absorbed through inhalation and reaching the brain. A 2020 study published in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience found that oral rosemary extract supplementation significantly improved cognitive function in older adults over a 4-week period. Research published in Therapeutic Advances in Psychopharmacology confirmed that 1,8-cineol crosses the blood-brain barrier and inhibits acetylcholinesterase in living brain tissue, not just in laboratory cell cultures. How to use it. 3 routes of delivery, each with distinct effects. First, culinary use. Regular consumption of fresh or dried rosemary in food is the most sustainable route. Add it liberally to roasted vegetables, soups, olive oil. This is the route that provides consistent low-level exposure to rosmarinic acid and other polyphenols. Second, rosemary essential oil aromatherapy. A few drops in a diffuser in your working or studying space. This is the most direct route for the 1,8-cineol inhalation effects documented in the Northumbria trials. Third, rosemary extract supplement. Look for a standardized rosemary leaf extract. Typical dose for cognitive support is 500 milligrams to 750 milligrams daily. The students in ancient Athens who wore rosemary garlands while studying were not engaging in ritual. They were doing something that modern pharmacology has now confirmed works through a mechanism sophisticated enough that pharmaceutical companies have built entire drug categories around trying to replicate it. They just didn't know the name of the compound. They just knew it helped them remember. Number 7. Turmeric for the brain. The golden compound that clears the fog. We've talked about turmeric on this channel before in the context of joint inflammation. But its effects on the brain deserve their own dedicated discussion, because the evidence here is both remarkable and criminally underreported. The primary active compound in turmeric, curcumin, crosses the blood-brain barrier. This is not true of many anti-inflammatory compounds. Most large molecules can't get through. Curcumin, in its lipid-soluble form, can. And once it's in the brain, it does something specific and measurable. It binds to and helps clear beta-amyloid plaques, the protein deposits that accumulate in the brains of people with Alzheimer's disease. This was first observed in laboratory studies and then confirmed in human imaging studies. A landmark 2018 randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in the American Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry followed 40 adults between the ages of 50 and 90 over 18 months. Half took a bioavailable curcumin supplement, half took a placebo. All received brain PET scans at the beginning and end of the study to measure amyloid and tau, the 2 protein accumulations most associated with Alzheimer's pathology. The results? The curcumin group showed significantly better memory and attention scores, and the PET scans of the curcumin group showed significantly less amyloid and tau accumulation in the brain regions associated with mood and memory, including the amygdala and hypothalamus, compared to placebo. This is not a vague correlation. This is a brain imaging trial showing that a naturally occurring compound reduces the physical accumulation of Alzheimer's-associated proteins in living human brains. Beyond amyloid clearance, curcumin has been shown to significantly increase BDNF, the neuronal growth factor that supports the formation of new connections and the survival of existing neurons. A 2017 study published in Neuropsychopharmacology found that curcumin supplementation significantly raised BDNF levels in the bloodstream, and that this increase correlated with improvements in both working memory and sustained attention. The bioavailability issue we discussed in the joint pain video applies here equally. You need curcumin combined with piperine from black pepper or in a liposomal or phosphatidylcholine-bound form for meaningful brain concentrations. Standard turmeric powder or basic curcumin capsules without a bioavailability enhancer will not achieve the blood and brain levels needed for these effects. How to use it for brain health. 500 to 1,000 milligrams of curcumin standardized to 95% curcuminoids, combined with piperine, bioperine, taken with food containing fat. Liposomal curcumin formulations are the highest bioavailability option if you can access them. The people of South Asia who have consumed turmeric daily in their food for thousands of years have the lowest rates of Alzheimer's disease in the world. India has roughly 1/4 the rate of Alzheimer's prevalence of the United States, adjusted for population and age. Epidemiologists have noted this for decades. The curcumin hypothesis, that regular dietary curcumin consumption is part of the explanation, is supported by the biological evidence at every level. All right, you've made it halfway through, and I want to acknowledge that. Most people click away in the first 3 minutes. You're still here, which tells me you're serious about this. So here's what I want you to do right now. Scroll down to the comments and type the word roots. Just that one word, roots. It tells me you made it here, and it helps this video get seen by more people who need it. I read every single comment. If you type roots, I will personally reply. Now, we are about to get to the herbs that I think are the most important ones on this entire list. Don't go anywhere. Number 8. Saffron, the golden spice that outperformed a leading memory drug. In 2010, a research team in Iran published a study that, if it had been about a pharmaceutical compound, would have been front-page news. They conducted a 22-week randomized, double-blind study comparing saffron, Crocus sativus, directly to donepezil, the leading prescription drug for Alzheimer's disease in patients with mild to moderate Alzheimer's. The result? Saffron performed comparably to donepezil for cognitive outcomes and caused significantly fewer side effects. A spice. The same spice that has been used in Persian, Indian, and Mediterranean cooking for over 3,000 years. The same spice mentioned in the Song of Solomon. The same spice that medieval European physicians used specifically for lifting the spirits and sharpening the mind. It performed comparably to the gold standard pharmaceutical treatment for Alzheimer's disease. The active compounds in saffron, primarily crocin and safranol, have multiple mechanisms relevant to brain health. Crocin inhibits the reuptake of dopamine and norepinephrine, which affects mood and motivation, as well as attention. Safranol has been shown to inhibit acetylcholinesterase, the same enzyme that Alzheimer's drugs target. Both compounds have antioxidant activity, specifically protective of neuronal membranes. A 2015 systematic review in Human Psychopharmacology analyzed multiple trials on saffron for cognitive function and mood, and concluded that saffron was superior to placebo for both mild cognitive impairment and depressive symptoms, with a safety profile significantly better than pharmaceutical comparators. Depression and cognitive decline are deeply intertwined in adults over 50. The brain systems involved in mood regulation overlap substantially with those involved in memory and executive function. A plant that addresses both simultaneously,
This graph
that
confers
reduces
the
the
positive impact on cognitive
neuroinflammation
function,
and
and the adverse
neurotransmitter
effects
disruption
remain minimal
underlying
across all
both
subjects.
conditions, is genuinely unusual. Saffron is one of those plants. How to use it. Saffron extract, standardized to 2% safranol. The dose used in clinical trials is 30 milligrams daily, typically divided into two 15 milligram doses. This is a relatively small and inexpensive supplement. The cost of saffron at supplemental doses is far lower than the culinary use of high-grade saffron threads. You can also consume it traditionally, small amounts of saffron in warm milk, a preparation used in Persian and Indian traditional medicine for centuries before the first clinical trial was ever designed. The ancient world knew. The 2010 clinical trial confirmed it, and your local pharmacy has never once mentioned it. Number 9. Ginkgo and Bacopa together. The synergy that changes everything. We've discussed ginkgo and bacopa separately, but there's a reason Ayurvedic practitioners and traditional Chinese physicians have combined multiple brain herbs for centuries rather than using single plant preparations. The combination of ginkgo biloba and Bacopa monnieri is the most studied herbal cognitive combination in modern clinical research, and the evidence for the combined preparation exceeds the evidence for either plant alone. Ginkgo improves blood flow to the brain. This means more oxygen, more glucose, more nutrients reaching every neuron. But increased delivery to a neuron that is being damaged by oxidative stress and neurotransmitter decline is only part of the solution. Bacopa, working simultaneously, enhances the production of acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter that the neurons need to use the extra nutrients ginkgo is delivering. And Bacopa reduces the lipid peroxidation that would otherwise damage the neuronal membranes that ginkgo's improved circulation is nourishing. They address different parts of the same problem, and the combined effect is synergistic rather than simply additive. A 2000 randomized controlled trial in psychopharmacology directly compared a combined ginkgo and Bacopa preparation to placebo in older adults, and found significantly greater improvements in working memory, processing speed, and cognitive flexibility than either plant had demonstrated alone in previous single herb trials. The combination also appears to reduce cognitive fatigue more effectively than either herb individually. The sense that your brain tires more quickly with demanding tasks, which is one of the most common cognitive complaints in people over 50. How to use this combination. Ginkgo biloba extract, EGB 761, at 120 to 240 milligrams daily, combined with Bacopa monnieri at 300 to 450 milligrams daily. Some formulations combine both. If you find one, ensure both are at therapeutic doses rather than trace amounts added for labeling purposes. This is the combination the ancient teachers might have reached for if they had had clinical trial data. They didn't, but they arrived at the same pairing through empirical observation over centuries. The modern trials have confirmed that the observation was correct. Number 10. Bacopa revisited, the compound effect at 12 weeks. We talked about Bacopa at number 1, but it deserves a second mention because there is a specific data point from the clinical literature that every person over 50 needs to hear. In the 2016 meta-analysis published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology, researchers pooled the data from 9 randomized controlled trials on Bacopa and cognitive function. When they looked at the data by time point, comparing results at 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and 12 weeks, they found something important. At 4 weeks, modest improvements. Some participants, not others, The effect was real, but not dramatic. At 8 weeks, more consistent improvements across participants. The memory scores, the processing speed scores, the attention scores, all moving in the same direction. At 12 weeks, the largest and most consistent effects across all trials. The participants who had shown the smallest improvements at 4 weeks often showed the largest gains by week 12. This is the compound effect of Bacopa. It is a plant that builds. The bacosides accumulate in brain tissue. The acetylcholine synthesis enzymes are upregulated gradually. The dendritic structures that carry memory, the physical architecture of recall, are rebuilt over weeks, not days. If you have ever tried Bacopa for a week and thought it didn't work, you stopped too early. The trial data is unambiguous. Week 12 is a different experience from week 1. Most supplements work by providing a substrate your body immediately uses and immediately depletes. Bacopa works by changing the underlying biology, the enzyme production, the antioxidant defenses, the structural integrity of neuronal membranes. This takes time because it is doing something that requires time. Give it 12 weeks. The people who have done this, in controlled clinical trials with measured cognitive outcomes compared to placebo, consistently show up at week 12 with measurably better memories than they had when they started. Number 11. Holy basil, the sacred plant that calms the noise inside your head. In every Hindu home across South Asia, there is a plant growing in a pot near the front door or in the center of the courtyard. Ocimum tenuiflorum, holy basil, called Tulsi, the incomparable one. Considered in Hindu tradition to be so sacred that it is worshipped as a manifestation of divine consciousness. Tended daily, consumed in tea form each morning as part of a spiritual practice that is simultaneously, and not coincidentally, a medical practice. Tulsi has been classified as an adaptogen, a plant that reduces the physiological consequences of stress for thousands of years. But its specific relevance to cognitive function comes through a mechanism distinct from ashwagandha's cortisol reduction. Holy basil contains compounds called eugenol, rosmarinic acid, and ursolic acid that work together to modulate the activity of the enzyme acetylcholinesterase, the same enzyme that breaks down acetylcholine. Like rosemary, like saffron, like ginkgo, Tulsi inhibits this enzyme and thus increases acetylcholine availability. But holy basil adds something else, a specific anxiolytic effect, an anti-anxiety action that comes through a different pathway involving the GABA system. GABA is the brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter, the neurochemical that calms the excessive neural firing associated with anxiety and rumination. The combination matters for cognition because one of the most underappreciated causes of poor memory and mental fog in people over 50 is not neurodegeneration, it is anxiety. Anxious minds are noisy minds. The constant background hum of worry, the rumination loops, the activation of the threat detection system when it isn't needed. These consume cognitive resources that would otherwise be available for clear thinking and accurate recall. Holy basil quiets that noise. A 2012 randomized controlled trial published in the Journal of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine found that holy basil supplementation significantly reduced anxiety, stress, and depressive symptoms in healthy adults, alongside measurable improvements in cognitive flexibility and attention scores. A 2017 study in the same journal found that Tulsi extract improved short-term memory and executive function in healthy middle-aged adults within 8 weeks. How to use it. Tulsi tea. 1 to 2 teaspoons of dried holy basil leaf steeped in hot water for 10 minutes is the traditional form and remains highly effective. Drink 1 to 2 cups daily, ideally in the morning. Standardized extract in capsule form, 500 milligrams to 1,000 milligrams daily, is available for more consistent dosing. Grow it on your windowsill. It grows easily indoors in a sunny spot, reseeds itself, and provides a continuous supply of fresh leaves. The people who tend a tulsi plant at their door and drink its leaves as morning tea are doing something that has been practiced across 1 billion people's lives for thousands of years. The pharmacology now explains why it works. The practice itself is simple, affordable, and beautiful. Number 12. The one the clinical trial proved every person over 50 should know. Phosphatidylserine, PS, is not a plant in the traditional sense. It is a phospholipid,
This scan confirms
a
the
fat
diagnosis,
molecule
but
that
the
is the
good
most
news is that
abundant
this type
lipid
of
in
activity
neuronal
responds
membranes.
very well to the treatment
Every
plan we
neuron in your
discussed.
brain is wrapped in a membrane that is substantially composed of phosphatidylserine. The structure of your thoughts, the physical substrate of your memories, is made of it. As you age, phosphatidylserine levels in brain tissue decline. This is measurable. It correlates with age-related memory decline. And it is addressable because phosphatidylserine is available from food and supplementation. The richest dietary sources are plants and fungi, specifically sunflower lecithin and soy lecithin. The clinical evidence for phosphatidylserine supplementation for age-related cognitive decline is so strong that in 2003, the United States Food and Drug Administration approved a qualified health claim for soy-derived phosphatidylserine, one of the very few times a nutritional supplement has received any level of formal FDA acknowledgement for cognitive benefits. The claim: consumption of phosphatidylserine may reduce the risk of dementia and cognitive dysfunction in the elderly. A 1991 randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in Neurology, the premier journal of the American Academy of Neurology, found that phosphatidylserine supplementation significantly improved memory, learning, and concentration in adults with age-associated memory impairment. A 1992 study in the same journal found improvements in the ability to recall names, faces, and the locations of misplaced objects, exactly the specific types of memory that decline most noticeably in adults over 50 following phosphatidylserine supplementation. A 2010 study published in the Journal of Clinical Biochemistry and Nutrition found that phosphatidylserine combined with DHA, the omega-3 fatty acid, produced significantly better cognitive outcomes than either compound alone, including measurable improvements in immediate memory and learning ability. This is the combination, not fish oil alone, which the Cochrane review found had little to no standalone effect on cognition, but phosphatidylserine plus DHA together, where the phosphatidylserine provides the membrane structural material and the DHA provides the essential fatty acid component that membranes need for fluidity and function. Your brain is literally made of these materials. As their levels decline with age, the physical structure of memory becomes less efficient. Restoring them is not adding something foreign to your biology. It is replenishing the building materials your biology runs on. How to use it. Sunflower-derived phosphatidylserine at 100 milligrams to 300 milligrams daily. Look for a sunflower source preparation rather than soy if you have soy sensitivity. The compound is identical. The source is different. Combine with a high-quality DHA supplement for the synergistic effect documented in the 2010 trial. The fish oil industry built a multi-billion-dollar market around DHA without the phosphatidylserine that makes the DHA effective for brain structure. The combination, the actual complete preparation that the biology requires, was left in the research journals, while the single ingredient dominated the marketing. Now you know the rest of what your brain needs. Here is the complete protocol. Start where you are. You don't need all 12 at once. Phase 1, weeks 1 through 4, 3 foundational plants. First, Bacopa monnieri, 300 to 450 milligrams standardized extract daily with food. This is your long-term memory rebuilder. Start now. Expect the compound effect at week 12. Second, ashwagandha KSM 66, 600 milligrams daily in the evening. This begins removing the cortisol interference that has been clouding your thinking. Third, ginkgo biloba, 120 to 240 milligrams standardized extract daily with food. This begins improving cerebral blood flow, more oxygen and nutrients reaching every neuron, starting in week 1. Phase 2, weeks 4 through 12. Add depth. Fourth, lion's mane dual extract, 500 to 1,000 milligrams daily. BDNF levels begin rising. Neuronal growth factor activity increases. New connections form. Fifth, turmeric with piperine, 500 milligrams curcuminoid complex, twice daily with food. Neuroinflammation declines. Amyloid clearance begins. Sixth, phosphatidylserine with DHA, 300 milligrams PS plus DHA supplement daily. The structural material of memory is replenished. Phase 3, week 12 onward. This is your maintenance foundation. Continue the above. Add Gotu Kola at 500 milligrams daily if you want maximum circulatory and dendritic support. Add Tulsi tea as your morning ritual, the daily practice that quiets anxiety and opens the space for clear thinking. What to expect? Most people notice the first changes between weeks 3 and 6. Slightly better word recall, slightly less brain fog, slightly more ease in remembering things that had been slipping. The changes are not dramatic at first. They are subtle, like the return of something that was fading. By week 12, the difference is typically unmistakable. Not supernatural, not pharmaceutical ad dramatic, but real, consistent, and measurable in daily life. The people in Okinawa who are sharp at 96 didn't start taking these plants at 90. They used them consistently, across decades, as part of the ordinary fabric of daily life. The plants didn't perform miracles. They maintained the biological infrastructure that allows a mind to remain clear. You are not trying to turn back time. You are trying to stop losing ground. And for that purpose, for the maintenance of a mind that can remember, connect, and engage clearly, these 12 plants are among the most powerful tools the natural world has ever produced. Your doctor has a waiting room full of people in their 50s who are frightened about their memory. Those people are being handed prescriptions for drugs that address the symptoms of neurodegeneration after it has already occurred, rather than tools that address the biological conditions that lead to it. The plants on this list don't work the way pharmaceutical drugs
We use the
work.
brass scales for the
They
berries,
don't block a
but the
single
root
pathway
requires
and produce
the
a
slicer.
measurable effect in
See
days.
the difference in texture.
They work the
The
way
neural activity in the
nutrition
hippocampus
works,
is significantly
by providing
higher
what
here.
the biology
Yes,
of the
correlating
brain
with
needs
the memory
to
recall data
maintain
we observed
itself,
earlier.
protect itself, and function at the level it was designed to function at. The Okinawan woman tending her garden at 96 didn't have a prescription. She had a kitchen garden and the knowledge of how to use it. She had tea made from plants her grandmother taught her about. She had the quiet, daily practice of feeding her mind with what her mind actually needed. That knowledge didn't disappear. It went underground the same way roots go underground in winter, and it's still there, waiting for you to remember it exists. One last thing before you go. If you watched this entire video, if you stayed with me from that garden in Okinawa all the way to this moment, I want you to go to the comments right now and type
As you can see on the
ancient
fMRI,
remedy.
the activation in the
Just
medial
those two
prefrontal cortex
words,
is significantly
ancient
higher in the study
remedy.
group.
It tells me you're part of the small group of people who actually finished this, and it helps me understand what kind of content matters most to you so I can make more of it. And if you haven't hit like yet, do it now. Not for me. Do it for the person in their 50s right now who is frightened about their memory, who is buying fish oil they don't need, and who doesn't know that 12 plants with thousands of years of use and real clinical evidence behind them are waiting in the description below. One tap from you could be the thing that puts this video in front of them. Ancient remedy in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. The links to the highest quality sources for every supplement mentioned today are in the description below. Everything I've recommended has been researched and selected based on standardization, purity, and clinical relevance. You'll find Bacopa, Ginkgo, Ashwagandha, Gotu Kola,
Take your time on
Lion's
this
Mane,
section.
and the complete
Just do
Phase
your
1
best with the
starter
drawing
kit
task.
all in one place. Your brain built every memory you have ever loved. Give it what it needs to keep building. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before beginning any new supplement regimen, particularly if you are taking pharmaceutical medications or have a diagnosed medical condition.